And here we are, folks. We are back. It doesn't seem like I was gone that long, but we've just got done with Matt Stevens being down talking to the coaching staff and the players. This was an impressive 31-24 victory over a Nebraska team that I think was really got the proper amount of respect. This was a legitimate top 20 team that will cause a lot of problems in the Big Ten as the season progresses. Matt, give us kind of a summary of your thoughts of a rather historic Illini win on the road.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like I picked Illinois to win because I didn't. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, about middle of the fourth quarter, I thought Illinois was going to win because I didn't. But there's just something about this team, Mike. I think that they're really resilient. They've got a lot of veterans that are sick and tired of losing, and they've got a lot of confidence, and you can see that in the way they're playing, and there's a lot of aggressiveness in on both sides of the ball, and then you can feel it. You can palpably feel it. And I was there on the sidelines for the last 5 minutes of the game of regulation, and then I was on the field for overtime. You could kind of feel that Illinois has been here before, and we've known how to lose. And if we do what we're supposed to do, we'll win. In a really, really raucous environment, this might be. I did a lot of, whatever you want to call it, about the Kansas game being the biggest game that Bielema has ever coached in Champaign-Urbana. This might be the biggest win he's ever had, because I think it's not like – I think you can look at the 9 overtime game and go, that's kind of fluky. Right? They didn't throw passes. They ran for 500 yards or whatever. They won in 9 overtimes. That was kind of fluky. They won 9-6. That's, next season, the 2022 at home against Iowa. Everybody's kind of like, well, that was kind of fluky. You didn't even score a touchdown. This one was a complete and utter victory. It wasn't a complete domination. I thought it was 2 really, really good football teams. But to come in here and win this game on the 400th sellout in Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, to face, I'm sorry, Dylan Gabriel is going to have to prove something to me, because I don't care if he's a freshman. I think that quarterback might be the best quarterback in the league. I really do. His arm talent is amazing. And fundamentally, he still has so much to work on, but the arm talent is just fundamentally just, my God. But he gets rattled like every other 18, 19-year-old freshman will get rattled. And if you get aggressive with him on defense, and this was a complete victory. Illinois needed stops. They got stops. Illinois needed to go up early and get scores. They got scores. And then my column, people are going to roll their eyes, but look, Mike, you've seen the old Pep Boys commercial of, that square peg in the round hole, just keep hitting it. I felt like that was the Illinois run game. It'll eventually fit. Just keep hitting it. And by God, they get to the fourth quarter, and all of their big runs, meaning over 10 yards, came in the fourth quarter or in overtime. And by God, you saw, freshman Caden Fagan. You finally saw that. You saw 2021 Josh McCray return again. You saw Aiden Laughery fully healthy and what he can do. And you saw an Illinois run game that just beat up a very, very tired Nebraska defensive front that had been tired of getting beat on for 3 quarters. And the dam finally broke for Illinois' run game. And I thought that was the key to getting the quote-unquote balance that Barry Lunney wants, is that I think he felt like whatever we call in this fourth quarter and in overtime, it's going to work. And it was just a complete victory in a hostile environment. And I give this program, I give Brett Bielema, I give Aaron Henry, I give Barry Lunney all the credit, and all the players in that locker room all the credit, because they went out and they took it and they got it done. And kudos to them, because Illinois usually loses games like this, and tonight they figured out a way to win.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice win. Did it seem like that Brett Bielema was able to maintain his own composure over a really horrific face mask call that literally was possibly a 14-point turn as Illinois was moving the ball pretty well. And then that ended a drive. And then you can't blame that next drive all on the face mask. I get that. But then they went in downfield and scored. So he didn't seem to get too angry about it and didn't let it like weigh on him. Is that a new thing, or is he just getting to be a better poker player?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know who it also didn't rattle is Luke Altmyer. And I think that's more important. Honest to God, I think number 9 could have let that fester the rest of the game and didn't. And you saw that again in the fourth quarter when he had to make throws, when he had to trust Brandon Henderson to throw him a touchdown pass on fourth down. Brandon Henderson's never caught a touchdown pass his entire life before tonight in any level of football. Tonight he caught his first touchdown pass. And Luke Altmyer felt enough trust to throw him the football in that fourth down and know that he wasn't going to drop it. Luke Altmyer felt enough confidence to know that when his headset went out in the middle of the fourth quarter and Barry Lunny has to literally physically signal in the plays now again, a la Connor Stallions, like Luke has enough confidence to call the plays that like either from the sideline or to get out of stuff on his own as a second-year starter. That could have derailed Luke, is that face mask call that didn't get called, and it did not. I don't really think it should derail the 16th-year head coach, but I'm willing to believe that the 21-year-old quarterback still has stuff to prove. Could have gotten rattled by that, and he didn't. And Mike, we're now 4 games in that Luke Altmyer has not committed a turnover and has not thrown an interception. So we're going to start this now of get ready for national broadcasts to start doing the whole Luke Altmyer has thrown blah, 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 many, completion or attempts or completions without an interception, because that's a thing now. And you can just feel, I talked to Pat Bryan about this. You can feel that Luke just is different. I want to focus on number 9 in that play and in that face mask, because you can feel that number 9 is different. You can feel that Luke Altmyer is different. You can feel it on the opening drive offensively. After they get the stop, Nebraska's never been down in a football game this year. And Luke Altmyer looks pre-snap, knows I'm going to get a blitz. And that means they're going to play press coverage on Pat Bryant. And I'm just going to throw him up the football because he's going to go get it. And if you go back and you watch that, he pulled the biggest Steph Curry I've ever seen of a football quarterback ever, because he literally threw his arms up and turned toward the Nebraska sideline and started talking as the ball is in the air, because he knows number 13 is going to go get it and score a touchdown. And we're up 7-0.
The other question that was interesting to me was the cameras were showing Luke on the sideline, and I don't think he was any more perturbed after he fumbled the ball than he was the time before. After a touchdown, they showed him sitting on a chair. I thought that was a relaxed quarterback, and I don't want to overuse this because he's a thinner guy, but it was really kind of Tom Brady-ish. He's just kind of like, I had a touchdown. Yeah, I had a fumble.
Yeah, I know. I got backside blitzed and the hell beat out of me and the ball came out. Like, I don't think that that's on Luke. I think he knew it wasn't on him. But
although in fairness, you want to maybe not have the ball one hand hanging down. Granted, you want to be block a little better, but you could. He's
gotten a little cocky with it, and that bit him. But I also think Luke understands. Pat Bryant, again, I talked to him about Luke's confidence, because those two are really in sync, and they're legit friends, and they're really, really in sync right now. I think Barry Lunny looked at this game, Mike, and thought, my 2 wide receivers are better than your top 2 corners in Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, and my quarterback's pretty good. So let's go with that. But from Luke's perspective, Pat said something really interesting, which is the tablets have really helped Luke. He is so different. And you watch the videos that we produce on IlliniGuys.com of media availabilities with Luke Altmyer, and it's like therapy sessions, guys. I mean, if you listen to him, he's different than normal athletes. Like, it's like literally going through a therapy session with Luke Altmyer. And he needs those tablets to kind of go, is that on me? Is that fluky? Like, it's big for his confidence because he can immediately get data and go, okay, this is what I need to do differently, or this is what happened. I don't need to worry about it. And last year, Luke would make mistakes that maybe were just sports, right? Everybody's played, weird things happen. It's not, you didn't maybe do something wrong. Sometimes just weird things happen. But Luke would have let that affect his confidence. But I think that being able to look at it on the tablet and go, oh, well, that's just fluky, or I should have made that throw. That's, I won't do that again. There's a lot of that. So I think Pat Bryant noticed immediately that the tablets that they're using this year on the sidelines have really helped an analytical guy like Luke Altmyer from a confidence perspective. And I think it's been huge for him to keep going on with Barry Illini and in his development, because right now, Luke Altmyer might be one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and he's a major reason why Illinois is 4-0.
Yeah, that ability to take what the defense gives him, and the other thing is he spreads the ball out really well. And I got to be honest with you, when Franklin went down, and maybe you can talk a little bit if you found out anything on how he feels, but when Franklin went down, I was extremely nervous about what they were going to do. And I'll tell you, with Hank Beatty, Malik Elzy, and Colin Dixon, who has just developed tremendously, they actually, I'm not saying that they're as good as Zakari. I don't want to say that, but the gap was not as big as what I anticipated, for the balance of the game.
In brief moments,
yes,
you can get very, very, very solid performances out of a redshirt freshman like Colin Dixon, out of a sophomore like Malik Elzy, out of a third-year guy like Hank Beatty, out of a second-year guy like Kanari Wilcher. That wide receiver room is very, very deep. Justin Stepp inherited a very, very deep wide receiver room in terms of, I would say, wow plays. Can you produce the wow play? In terms of consistency, I think they have two guys. I think they have Pat Bryant and they have Zakari Franklin. I can tell you about Zakari Franklin. I was on the sideline. That last drive where they tried to get into field goal range, Zakari Franklin came back on the field. Brett Bielema was not lying. Zakari Franklin, I watched number 4 come back onto the field. He didn't look all right. He didn't look 100%, but he came back on the field. So that was good.
I got a crazy question for you.
Sure.
If there had been 13 seconds on the clock or 10 seconds on the clock for Illinois' 4th down, would we have seen one of those? Would we have seen a record-breaking field goal attempt?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
2 reasons why. One, Brett Bielema said it perfectly on Monday. The only reason I do that is when the ball goes through the uprights or out the back of the end zone on an attempt like that, it needs to be triple zeros. Like before I try something like that, that's why Ethan Molcheski's record-breaking attempt happened right before the half last week. Okay, that's one. 2, I couldn't tell. I don't think TV did it justice because from the box I couldn't tell. I went down on the field. The wind was something fierce once you got onto the field, and Illinois was directly in the face of it. And it was kind of swirling too. So I actually was sitting there with Brett Moore, the SID at Illinois, and I said, look, when they were on the 50, I said, they've still got to go 25 yards at least to set this up. Because the last thing you want to do is miss that field goal, which is why Brett Bielema didn't try the 50-yarder, like in the same direction, right? Earlier in the game, they went for it on that 4th down. I actually think it's the face mask play. The reason they didn't try to kick the 50-yard field goal there is they're in the wind, and Brett Bielema does not want to put the ball on the 33-yard line and have a momentum play like that. And now you're just going to go down and score. Now they put the ball in the 30 and Nebraska just went down and scored, but I see the logic there. But yeah, no, they needed to get to at least the 25 before they were going to give. Ethan was the one that was warming up, which was interesting to me. But But before you give Ethan and or David a chance, I thought they had to at least get to the 25. Maybe it would have been borderline if they'd have gotten to the 30.
Okay. Yeah, because it's very similar to another Memorial Stadium where you can't always tell because flags blow in different directions.
Yeah, I mean, from the box, Mike, it felt dead wind-wise, and then I got down on the field and went, whoa, this is – I mean, I'm a golfer. This was like, whoa, this is – we're throwing grass in the air because I don't know what we're looking at here.
Yeah. Josh McCray, you've talked several times about how he was – the first player to commit to the Brett Bielema era here in Champaign. What was the difference today? Because boy, he seemed to run. I'll be honest with you, when I saw the final stat sheet that he was nine attempts for 38 yards, which isn't bad, 4.2 yards a carry. But I got to be honest with you, he was bigger than that in the game. Any thoughts on his performance? Not that Caden Fagan, didn't contribute or Aiden Lowry, but I thought McCray really had some big moments and had a semi-circus catch.
Yeah, he's become a pretty valuable guy out of the backfield for Luke Altmyer, which is something I didn't think that Josh McCray was going to be when I saw him as a freshman in 2021. Kind of thought he was just going to be a bell cow tailback. He's kind of become a 3-down tailback. Because he's become a really good pass catcher. I thought Josh had a good game. I don't think he's had that breakaway. Like, he had a couple of those last weekend. I didn't think he had a breakaway this week, like I've seen him have. He looks healthy, I'll tell you that. But I think I think this is going to look deceiving for people because I just don't think you're going to get a Chase Brown type stat line out of a running back at Illinois this year. I think you're going to see 3 guys, whether it's the combination of Caden and Aiden and Josh or an emerging Khalil Valentine. I just think you're going to see a whole bunch of, 50 yards, 8-9 carries for 50 yards, and then you're going to look down and go, wow, Illinois ran for 200 yards. And I think Luke Altmyer is going to have 20 or 30 yards rushing on scrambles and design, draws and all that kind of stuff. And you're just going to look down and go, wow, Illinois had 200 yards rushing. And I don't think anybody is going to crack 80 yards, 80, 90 yards. So you're not going to see a Doak Walker, candidate in Illinois' backfield, but I think you're going to see a whole bunch of guys that are going to accumulate. The sum of the parts is going to be greater than one whole Chase Brown, let's just say. And I think that's what Brett Bielema was looking for in 2024, and I think he's found it in a really, really deep running back room.
Yeah, and I think conversely, I thought Seth Coleman, was good on the pass rush tonight. Tayra Edwards was good defensively up the middle. I was surprised because I didn't know if Illinois could hold Nebraska up the middle and on the run. And when you look at it, they basically, held the 2 running backs to 89 yards. And then they obviously a couple trick plays out there, et cetera. And Nebraska's rushing yards look worse because of Dylan Raiola at the end of the game did a little to help that. But were you surprised at Illinois' ability to both stop the run and run the ball a little better against a team that was better than what they've played so far?
Yeah, because the other people that were surprised by it were Brett Bielema and Aaron Henry, because they really, really thought Nebraska was going to try early on to impose their will physically on a defense that had not proven that they can really stuff the run. So, yeah, I think not allowing a Nebraska tailback to have 100 yards was big. I think not allowing Dylan Raiola to get going, in the run game and get on scrambles was big. And Nebraska's game plan of, man, he's got arm talent, but I would not have put that all on an 18-year-old the way that they did tonight. But I get what Marcus Satterfield's trying to do. And so if Brett Bielema and Aaron Henry were going to load up on the run, guess what? That meant play action pass was going to be something that Dylan Riola was going to have to do. And man, he's got it all, man. Like, I mean, you could tell why, he was a 5-star guy and why Georgia really, really wanted him, and why Ohio State should have probably been in the ball game for him more than they were. It's just he's going to be the best quarterback in this league very, very quickly if he isn't already fighting to be that. But he's also 19 years old, and you saw what happens late in games when he's got somebody in his face.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. But yeah, I thought big game. I thought for another big game for Alec Bryant. When he's playing at a level that he's playing at, and it allows you to move Gabe Yakas inside, you have a better chance of playing with your best 11 guys on defense, quite frankly. And it really allows 3 elite pass rushers that Illinois feels like they have on the outside with Seth and with Gabe and with Alec Bryant to really get, not empty their gas tank by the third quarter, because you saw they were rotating all 3 of those guys, one in, one out kind of thing. And it really paid dividends come overtime when they were able to put pressure on Dylan Riola. And I thought the play calls of Aaron Henry and the defensive calls of Aaron Henry in that overtime was about the best he's had as an Illinois defensive coordinator, because he decided if he's going to beat us in this overtime, he's going to do it with guys in his face. He's going to do it with friction. He's going to do it with guys. He's going to have to make a play where we're not just going to just roll it back, roll our coverage back. So I feel like Aaron Henry really dialed it up in overtime and knew that sitting back and waiting for Dylan Riola to make a mistake with his arm was not going to be the game plan. And I thought it worked great.
Yeah, I think Dylan showed that he's human on the last and final drive in overtime, but that's
because he is.
That's a machine, though, that's good that they're going to build now. One note here: best victory for Bielema at Illinois. The Minnesota game in 22 is a runner-up. That was a wonderful game, and I'm kind of crazy, but I actually thought that Iowa game in 22 was something good, because I thought that defense was special, and with the tight end play, they were a better offense maybe than what we thought. But I can't argue too much with this one being an incredible victory. And I do think your characterization of the Penn State 9 overtime victory is a little bit fluky is probably accurate as well.
But you know what, it goes down as a W. But I'm not trying to take.
I'm totally with you there.
And what Bielema put the foundation for in 21. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the 9-6. It's actually one of my favorite games because of what Art Sitkowski did to come in and get that game-winning drive, right? Everything came into play for that. But this was a game in which I've got to go back and find another game in which Illinois, you don't leave the stadium thinking – I think you could legitimately look at the Kansas game and go, well, didn't Kansas just kind of give Illinois that game? Like, didn't Jalen Daniels kind of give Illinois that game? And the answer is, yeah, kind of. I don't feel like Illinois allowed somebody to give them a gift. I feel like they came into Lincoln and took something against a football team that I think is going to win 8-9 football games this year in Nebraska and be a pain in the you-know-what in this league. So, again, it makes the biggest game that Bielema has ever coached probably next week in Happy Valley when they go play a top 10 Penn State team, and they're probably going to be ranked somewhere in the top 20, if not top 15. So I don't know if we thought that was going to be on the table. I did not. I did not either. But Bielema's one of Bielema's favorite things to say is the best is yet to come. A future column out of mine is, if that's the case, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. And it doesn't, nothing's off the table. They're 4-0, nothing's off the table. They haven't lost. You keep playing like this, we're there's a
12-0, baby.
Well, there's a 3-letter thing called the college football playoff that becomes less and less more of a pipe dream. If you just keep winning football games, and So, yeah, but I felt like Illinois took this. I felt Illinois was like, you know what? We can be the better team in Lincoln. And it doesn't have to be a fluke. And that's what I thought they proved tonight.
Yeah, and I think like you look at Gabe Yakus, with 5 tackles, 3 solo, a sack, tackle for loss, and a forced fumble. I mean, that's really good. Dennis Briggs Jr. had a nice game. Seth Coleman had a nice game. Alec Bryant had a nice game.
I'll tell you, Mike, I don't mean to cut you off. I'll tell you when I thought Illinois was going to win this football game. I'll be dead honest with you. When I thought Illinois was going to win this football game, when Nebraska took a knee at the end of regulation, they had about 20 seconds to do something, maybe miraculous, to maybe get into a field goal range type situation where maybe we can throw it deep, we can spike it, we can throw an out pass. Now we got like a 45. You've seen it all the time, right? Where you just go down in 30 seconds and maybe get a field goal, out of your, what, right? They took a knee at home with a 5-star quarterback. And I kind of thought Illinois kind of looked at that and went, oh, they don't think they can win. Like, they're worried about him throwing a pick. They're worried about him doing something stupid. And that's what I think Aaron Henry was like, you know what, let's dial it up on this guy. And then I thought overtime was just theirs. And then, look, I'm going to do this one time, and then I'm going to lay off. But for all the people that want Caden Fagan to play linebacker or a tight end, enough with that. Like, you saw in the fourth quarter why he's a Big Ten, all Big Ten honorable mention selection as a true freshman.
I'll say one thing, Matt. I think they put him in a situation that he's better at on top of that. So he proved what he can do. And I just think when you do I'm not going to say we're doing a full RPO because I don't think we really do that. But when you put him standing next to Altmyer, and Altmyer has to hold the ball for 1,001 to decide to give it to him at a dead stop versus getting him out into space where he can, and he's moving fast. He is a scare. I mean, I got to be honest. You think about it. How would you want to, how do you tackle this guy? Because he's coming at you at 250 pounds fast when he's out in the open field, and you're just hoping, like, I want to hit him in the knees and hope he doesn't kill me while I'm doing that.
We're at about the 28-minute mark, Mike, and I'll just say quickly, I agree with you, but I think Caden Fagan's going to be an all Big Ten tailback before it's all said and done.
Oh, I totally agree there.
I do think also hell of a game for Josh Kreutz and the interior guys on Illinois for that fourth quarter. Because they finally decided we're going to be the bully. We've taken enough guff over the last 9-10 quarters of play. I'm so happy for somebody like Josh Kreutz, because I know for a fact that young man has read so many people, including people on our message board, and that would go, he's not big enough to play in the Big Ten. And he was a main factor to why Illinois' run game did what it did in the fourth quarter. And Nebraska, just the defensive line just tapped out in the fourth quarter. And so I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for Josh Geske. And then Zy Chrysler and Kevin Wigington, the transfer from Michigan State, I thought did a really, really good job at those guard spots. The interior offensive line, I wrote it out in my film review. They took a lot of guff, and I thought they answered the call in the last quarter of this game, and it was a major reason why Illinois won. Yeah,
that was great to see. Last thing is defensive backfield. I thought they played a good game. Had a couple moments there where I think they got lost in coverage a little bit, but for the most part, I thought they played fairly well against a quarterback who has the ability to move and get an extra second or two, and he can make every throw in the book, and that has to be an adjustment, because Jalen Daniels is a very talented guy, but he struggled reading the defense. He also struggled, in my opinion. There were several times when he had an open receiver, he just didn't see it or couldn't get the ball there when he did see it, And I think Raiola proved that. And I still think the defensive backs played a very big game, hit hard, reliably tackled. And despite playing against a very talented quarterback and a couple decent receivers, I thought they played a good game as well.
Decent receivers, Mike. I think Nebraska's got great receivers.
Yeah.
I think they've put skill position wise. I think the 10 guys that they've put around Dylan Raiola, they've really done him justice as a true freshman. I think the receivers are pretty darn good at Nebraska. It's why I think they're going to win 8-9 games. I thought Illinois' DBs held up, and Nebraska's wide receivers had to make big plays, and you expect them to do that because they're really talented guys. But I thought Torrey Cox played a really, really good game. I thought Xavier Scott played a really good game, and once again, because he's got the radio communication, I think Miles Scott played a really, really good game. So, and from a defensive backfield standpoint, I think one of the main reasons, again, why Nebraska wasn't able to dominate the line of scrimmage and dominate the run game is because Matthew Bailey is really, really important in that regard. So I just named 4 guys that I thought. And then, look, Terrence Brooks just played his best game in an Illinois jersey. There's just no doubt in my mind about that. I don't know what it means, but I think that he played his best game. So if he's somebody that can contribute for you later on in life, that's great. And if Caleb Patterson kind of has a meh game, you can put number 8 in there for a while and give Caleb Patterson, a breather. But yeah, I think at 5'8.5", Torrey Cox plays a hell of a lot bigger. And you can tell that his dad played in the NFL. So instincts wise, he just kind of has it. So, I thought the secondary played really, really well in a game where it looked like Dylan Raiola was eating them up because he can just make throws without having to be on a proper platform to make them.
I totally understand that. Yeah.
I'm going to sound like an old fart, but if from a fundamental footwork standpoint, he ever gets anything down like that, he's going to be really dangerous because right now he's beating people with nothing more than his right arm. Because the platform in which he throws at is not parallel to anything that he's looking at. And sometimes that you want it to be because he's on the run. But to ask, I talked to Alec Bryan about this. One of the reasons they felt like they had to dial up in the second half was because they were asking the secondary to cover an awful lot in the first half. And so when we talk about complementary football, you got to help out your DBs. And I felt like the guys up front really did that. And it allowed the DBs to kind of go back to what they like to do, which is, bait the quarterback into making mistakes. And Torrey Cox did that in the end zone and during the interception, which I thought was a really key play.
Yep. Any other final thoughts, I guess, before we wrap up talking about Nebraska?
Boy, that Penn State game is going to be a lot of fun, isn't it?
That was my next question. Is
go ahead.
What are you looking for next week? What are you looking for next week?
Look, it's another chance for Illinois to prove everybody wrong, right? And they're not going to be favored in that game. But what if Luke Altmyer plays better than Drew Aller? Like, what if Illinois' defense is just as good as Penn State's defense? What if Illinois can figure out how to run the ball for 4 quarters against Penn State? They've done that before. Like, go ask Virginia Tech head coach Brent Pry. I don't see this team anymore going into an environment like, Mike, this is a big-time environment here in Lincoln. And I don't see Illinois going into any type of environment, whether it's Happy Valley or it's Eugene the rest of the season and going, well, we can't win that one. I just don't feel like this team operates that way. So we'll see what happens. But, boy, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we've seen them, they've survived 2 top 25 teams. So now we'll see if they can keep that going. This is, according to one of our fans, this is the second 4-0 season for the Illini. Since 1951, one in 1951, and of course 2011. So we'll see if they can go challenge the 2011 and get to 5-0 and on the route to that 6-0. But this certainly there's no reason now. I'm not saying they're going to be favored going to Happy Valley, but I also think there's
I'm
also
telling you right now, they're not.
Yeah, there's also no reason to make the assumption that they're not going to win.
No, and here's the other thing. Get ready for national media to start giving a darn about Illinois. Like, and I think Illini fans start to know when that's going to happen in basketball. It's going to start to happen in football now. Like, you're going to have a top 20 team. It's going to go to Happy Valley. It's going to be a primetime matchup. I think it's a 6 or a 6:30 kick is what they said. So I don't think it can be Big Ten Saturday night on NBC, but maybe. I don't know how that time slot works, but maybe. It's a primetime game, though. And what if Illinois wins that game and goes to 5-0? Suddenly now the only, what do you want to call it? Like an absolute game where you're not going to be favored anymore is when you go to Eugene on Halloween weekend. And at that point, you start going, well, now wait a minute. They just beat Penn State on the road. They beat Nebraska on the road. What if they finish with 1 or 2 losses as a Big Ten team? Like, what if? Like, you start doing that stuff. Mike, the back half of this schedule was supposed to be the easy part. Like, we're getting into the teeth of the hard part here, and Illinois still hasn't lost.
Yes.
What if, right? And so I think it's a monumental performance by Brett Bielema and Aaron Henry and Barry Lunny and all the people in the building, and then all of the 74 players that showed up at Lincoln, Nebraska this weekend, this Friday night in this football game. Because again, it's the first time that Brett Bielema has won a big game where you're like, well, that wasn't fluky at all. Illinois just won the football game, right? I haven't felt that way since Bielema went in 2022 when he went to Madison and just ran them over. That's not what this was tonight. Nebraska is a very, very good football team, and it was a competitive 4-quarter football game. But darn it, if it wasn't a competitive 4-quarter football game, and Illinois found a way to win it, they didn't. Yeah. They didn't falter and lose it. So, you feel like until Illinois loses a football game, and they maybe will lose like next Saturday in Happy Valley, but until they lose a football game, everything's on the table, and this is really a lot of fun. I dealt with this with Mississippi State. I dealt with this with Auburn. It's a lot of fun, guys, when teams are coming out of nowhere, but that they're talented and it's not fluky. This is fun. This is a lot of fun.
One final question.
Sure.
Final question. Did Brett Bielema talk anything about recruiting? Because this was a national game, and Illinois did not shrink in the spotlight. Illinois got bigger in the spotlight. What did he have to say?
It's a Friday night game, so guess what? While everybody's playing tomorrow night, he gets to hop on his phone and hop on social media and recruit. And that's what he's going to do, right? He can't touch the players. He mentioned that like 4 different times. NCAA rules say he can't touch his own players or have any contact with his own players tomorrow, meaning Saturday. Okay, I can have contact with 26s and 27s like all day long while they're watching college football. So, I do think as Illinois starts to become a national storyline, you're going to start to see, I think, if this continues, you're going to see the recruit list for the Purdue game, and you're going to see the recruit list for the Michigan home game, and the Michigan State home game look a lot different than I thought it was going to a month ago. So you've got a lot of things that I think Brett Bielema, because Mike, you and I both know how hard they've been going after these 26s and 27s. And so, and they're also trying to flip some key 25s. And I think that, this doesn't do anything but help. It doesn't do anything but help. But I think he's going to Brett Bielema is going to, spend a whole lot of time burning up his phone on Saturday, because this is what this is about.
Perfect. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's late night. Matt still has some stories to write, but trust us, IlliniGuys.com. You want to get a subscription, this would be the time to do it. Go there, take a look. It is only 27 cents a day. We would love to have you as part of our community. And if you want to wait till next time, we will be on Monday when we talk with Mike Gross about what Illinois is going to face with the Penn State Nittany Lions so that we can get prepared for next week's, hopefully, Illini upset victory as they try to go 3 for 3 against ranked teams in the first 5 games, something that we didn't think was possible. But Brett Bielema and the guys in that locker room don't seem to worry about what we think. So thank you very much, Matt. We appreciate it. And until next time, folks, go Illini.